to find out a little bit more about why regional Victoria is a great place to invest, please come along to the seminar space. So my name is Stewart. I'm a Senior Project Manager at Core Projects. I'm here on behalf of Newland Developers. So we're actually showcasing two fantastic projects that are actually based in regional Victoria. So we've got the Warraley Estate in Armstrong Creek, and we've also got the Mandalay Resort in Beveridge. So it's just on, the stall is just at the entrance as you come in on the left. If you have a chat to Lee and Ramesh, they'll be able to tell you about those fantastic projects. But I digress. So 16 years working in property, obviously not as much as Bob, 42 years. It's a big ask coming on after Bob and Matt. They did a fantastic presentation, so hopefully mine is as good. I've got there that I'm a relentless property investor. So why I say that is my wife and I, we built our first home 2010. So it's just the two of us. We had a sum total of $10,000. That was our deposit for our house and land package. Didn't know at the time that that was obviously not a lot of money. We were lucky enough to get our first home buyers grant. We're still in that home. So from 2010 to 2016, we had 3 kids. I worked in and have worked in land sales since 2010. No investment properties, no additional properties. It wasn't until 2016 that I decided to take the plunge. And following on from Bob's comment, especially with first home buyers, but sometimes you just need to get in the market. So my first investment property was a 14 square single garage brick veneer house and land package. It was in the estate that I worked in Warraley. It was the cheapest, or I should say the most inexpensive package I could find. It was $285,000 for house and land. Okay, I was super nervous even though I worked in the industry. I was so nervous that I decided to share the risk with my mother-in-law. But obviously I didn't think through the fact that I shared the profits with her as well. So I just want to touch on, so as I've gone along, first probably 2016, I've tried where possible every year to do a home. So I'm 6 properties in that I've built and settled, and I've got a further 2 on the go. So what I'm going to chat to you about today are some of the things that I would look at, not just in my role as a project manager looking after land estates, but also as an investor myself. So why property? I would assume everyone that's here has a passion or enthusiasm for property, because if you didn't, why would you come here on a weekend? It's obviously free. I love property. I'm obsessed with property. I'll go for a run and I'll look at little corner lot subdivisions that have been done, and I'd think about why can't I do that? Property has changed my life. So as I said, my wife and I had a deposit of $10,000. From property, we have built a portfolio of just under $4 million, and we've got about $1.5 million worth of equity. So that's from $10,000. Now that's taken us a while, that's 12 years, but most of that has been 6 years. So every year I've tried to do a property. So that's through COVID, that's through credit crunch, that's through obviously having kids. So what's your why? This is probably, out of this presentation, apart from some stats, is probably, I think, the most important part of this presentation. So when I say what's your why, I'm talking about what's the reason why you are considering investing in property, whether it's your first home or whether it's an investment. It's not for the faint of heart. There is risk. It's a significant amount of money. There are pitfalls. You can buy in the wrong area. You can spend too much. You can put yourself in financial jeopardy. So what's the why? So my why is, in 2016 we had our 3rd child. I had a bit of an epiphany. I realised that I needed to get my act together and try and create a system where my family had enough wealth to be comfortable. That's all I want to be. I don't want to be rich. I want to, when I retire, be comfortable. I don't want to have to worry about spending too much to heat the house. I want to be able to go on holidays with my wife and our kids. So I've got a very clearly defined why. Now, as an example of my why, my first property, the 14 square single garage, basic house for $285,000, I actually didn't get that property, nearly didn't get it. We got knocked back for finance from Westpac, lovely people, I'm actually banking with them now, but they knocked us back. And I remember clearly driving up to my parents' house. I was in the passenger seat. My wife was driving. I got a call from our broker, Marika. She's fantastic, Geelong Financial Group. She would twist herself into knots to try and get her clients financed, but she clearly said to me, she goes, Ben, sometimes it's just not meant to be. Sometimes these things just happen. So in her mind, it was a dead duck. We were finished. Yep. My response, and I actually can't say what my response was, given there are kids in the audience, but it was a pretty firm no. That is not how it's going to end. So we worked out a plan A and a plan B and a plan C and a plan D, and while it took a long time and it was quite protracted and stressful, we got our first investment property. So my why pushed, that's the thing I would sort of suggest. If you've got a clearly defined why as to why you're doing this, yep, no matter what obstacles come up, you will get through. So how do I develop my investment thesis? This is just myself. This is not the be on the end all. It's just some of the things that I would always look at if I'm investing in a specific area. So I would assume most of these presentations at the top of the list would be population growth. You should know if you are investing in an area, whether it's Metro, Greenfields, regional Victoria, how many people live there, how many people potentially will be in there in the next 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. Really, really important. Basically comes down to, if you have more people moving to an area than there is adequate supply of houses, the value of your property will go up. It's very basic maths. And I'll touch on that at our 2 case studies in a little bit. Proximity to built infrastructure, it's not the be on the end all in regards to if you're buying an investment property and there's no infrastructure there at the moment. You would be concerned if you, say, built a property and there wasn't a lot of infrastructure to come. If you're speaking to your sales professional, whoever that is, they should have a good understanding of when are the train lines potentially going to come, when are the shops going to come, when are the schools going to come. If you can find an area that hasn't occurred yet, you're actually going to get really good capital growth. But it's a long-term play. You need to be patient. Some areas it might be 10 years before a lot of these things happen. Scarcity. Pretty basic. Ideally, if you can invest in an area where eventually there's going to be no more supply, once again, if you've got something, the price will go up. And there is a slide I'll sort of highlight that talks about that in Armstrong Creek. Socio-economic trends. Hey, Santo, how are you, mate? You good? Santo over at House and Land Victoria? Yeah. Have a chat to Santo about house and land packages. Socio-economic trends, there's only one specific one that I want to focus on later in this presentation. You're probably all aware of it. It's got to do with COVID. It's been amazing, that trend, and we'll talk about that in a sec. Replacement cost. Replacement cost is, if you were to have a chat to the guys from Porter Davis, you've got your eye on a bit of a block, you have a chat to Eddie about a house and land package, you cost it out in regards to fencing, landscaping, everything that would include so that your house is built and you can move your prospective tenant or yourself in. So you've got a figure, let's just say it's 100,000. Right? You should, as a check measure, go onto realestate.com and find out if the same house, let's say you're going to buy a 400 square metre block, you're going to build a 4-bedroom house, 22 squares with double garage. You go to realestate.com. Ideally, the house that you're going to build, you would want that property to be selling for more than what you are building that for. Okay? If it's a situation where you're building that house for more than what they're selling for, it's probably not the right investment. Okay? Time and timing. Time is, just check the time to see how we're going. Time is one of the most important things in investing, especially if you're off the plan. Time is your friend. People get upset about title delays. They happen. But if you buy a block of land today at today's price, it's due to title, let's say it's third quarter 2023. Say there's a delay. Say it gets delayed 12 months. Say it's third quarter 2024. That's terrible. It's put your life on hold. All these things are happening. You want to do other things. But you've got an additional 12 months worth of capital growth for zero holding costs. Think about that. Every day that goes by, and obviously following on from Matt and Bob's presentation, property generally continues to go up. Timing also can be a bit tricky if you have, if you are an ambitious investor. I've seen a number of times where people have bought multiple packages in different estates, thinking if they have a certain amount of time between them, they'll be fine. Sometimes stages. Hey, Chi, how you going? Good. Sometimes stages come in early, sometimes they're delayed. So you want to be really, really careful. To sort of reiterate Bob's message, like for me, my investment horizon, I'm 41, I just turned 41. I've probably got another 20 to 25 years worth of investing. So while I'd love to go and buy 5 properties in a year, I know it's not the right thing to do. The bank wouldn't give me that amount of money, but sometimes it's the turtle. You just got to be patient as opposed to the hare. Who is going to drive price growth? This is really, really important, okay? There are certain projects where the developers are not necessarily that attuned with the market and sometimes miss opportunities to create growth. You want to be investing in master plan communities with experienced developers that know when is the right time to lift price. Because in reality, if you buy a block today, you want to be confident that that block in 2 years' time is going to be worth more. So think about the developer you're going to invest with. Rental yield, quick one. Who knows how to calculate rental yield? You know how to calculate rental yield? Anyone? You see, you've got your pen, she does, but you've got your pen in the air. Was that a yes or a no? Not sure. All right, well, if you're on, I'm sure Matt knows how to calculate rental yield. Matt's a figures man. Really important if you don't know how you actually teach yourself. You can Google it. I'm happy to have a chat to you about it afterwards. This is really, really important. If I'm doing an investment, ideally in regional Victoria, I don't want to invest in anything that's got a yield less than 4%. Okay, now we're in a changing landscape. Interest rates are going up. Yep, but rents are also going up as well. It's part of your due diligence. This is serious, serious stuff. You need to put the time in when you're researching. Cash flow. I'm not an accountant. I had an interesting conversation with my wife yesterday when I did this presentation in front of her. She goes, make sure they don't think you're providing accountancy advice. My point of view, pretty basic. I would always prefer my properties to ideally make money. It's pretty important because if interest rates are going up, which they are, and your property's losing money or was negatively geared, it might be for tax purposes, you could be potentially having to take out a lot more money out of your pocket. So, into why regional. I'm a Cats fan, I had to do it. Anyone here a Cats fan? No? Well, anyway, we won the grand final. It was fantastic. I actually got food poisoning on the day, so that's probably not as enjoyable as it could have been. Regional Victoria, so population growth. So the guys from Latitude had a similar sort of graph. If you're looking at this, if you can make it out, the dark colour, that is net overseas migration. The tealy colour is net interstate migration. So who can guess what the big gap is? What happened there? Yep, COVID, that's right. Yep, you're all saying COVID. So we had more people leaving Australia than coming in. All right. Now let's just have a look at the right-hand side of that graph. So this is just Victoria specific, okay? So across Australia and Victoria, the first quarter, so the March quarter of 2022 was a record for net overseas migration. So the taps are back on. People are coming back to Australia. Why is that good? Because they come over here, yep, they start a life, they get jobs, they pay taxes, they build houses, yep, they buy stuff. Australia grows because we need significant migration. The interesting thing is interstate migration has not gone positive yet. They're all going to Queensland at the moment, but as Bob said, they're going to come back because there's probably not enough jobs. So that's really, really positive. So let's just start to focus on two of the key areas that I wanted to highlight. And coincidentally, they are Armstrong Creek and Beveridge, which our two projects are. So Victoria, so I've looked at a really long time frame, but as I sort of said, I'm 41, 20 years time, I'm 60, thinking about retirement. That's the length of time I need to look at from an investment point of view. So Victoria, so in 2041, there will be 1.6 million more people. That's a 26% increase. That's good. Got to build a lot of houses to cater for that. So Geelong, Greater Geelong. I am from Geelong, by the way, so no one's saying mean things about Geelong. 2041, there will be 118,000 additional people. So that's a 43% increase. If we then start to look at Armstrong Creek, 132% increase. So that's Armstrong Creek, the suburb. Mitchellshire, which is quite a large area, but there is Beveridge, of which our Mandalay resort is. So nearly 1,200% increase in regards to the population in Beveridge. These figures might be a bit unders because in our Mandalay resort there are about 6,000 people and there are other projects in Beveridge. So if we just close our eyes and say that we've bought something in Beveridge, yep, there's 6,000 to 7,000 people living in Beveridge. If we held that property for 10 years, 20 years, there's nearly 80,000 people living in there and obviously the appropriate amount of infrastructure would go through. Do we think that's going to be a positive thing in regards to property prices or a negative thing? Yep, everyone's nodding. Yep, positive, 100%. Cheese nodding as well. Yep. So this information is not hard. There's a website. It's .id informed decisions. Google the suburb or the location you're looking at for property growth. It will pop up. It does different timeframes as well. You can compare areas. I know you're not going to be able to read this list, but that's not the point. This is the top 20 by estimated value infrastructure items in the Greater Geelong area. So I've added it up. I copied it into an Excel spreadsheet. Yep. So $10.748 billion potentially will be spent in the Greater Geelong area. Some of this is proposed, and the top one's a really good example. So if you're not aware, there is $4 billion which has been proposed for a fast rail from Geelong to Melbourne. So part of investing is about being a bit of a futurist. I think Nigel was on yesterday. So you have a bit of you close your eyes and you sort of fast forward and you go, well, what happens if certain things happen? So once again, if you ask yourself, if $4 billion gets spent on a fast rail from Geelong to Melbourne, would that be a positive thing or a negative thing in regards to property values? Beveridge. Obviously, if you're going to have 80,000 people move to Beveridge, there will be lots of infrastructure items. Highlighting one specific one which has been announced, $2.4 billion is going to be spent on a freight terminal. Now this is not sort of sexy stuff, but it's going to create about 10,000 jobs. This is announced. Once again, think about it. Is this going to be a benefit to the area that you're potentially moving to? Obviously you might be able to get a job if you work in that industry. Quickly, if we look a bit broader in regards to regional Victoria, regional rail revival program. So every regional passenger line in Victoria is going to be upgraded. So I'm talking about Armstrong Creek and Beveridge, but there's a number of regional centres you can consider invest. Going back to Bob's point about price, potentially you've only got quite a low budget. That's not to say you say I'm not going to invest. Maybe you just need to look a bit broader. Get in the car, go for a drive, have a chat to different professionals. You might be able to get something in Shepparton. You might be able to get something in Wodonga. There's heaps of fantastic towns in regional Victoria. 2026 Commonwealth Games. Hands up who knew that firstly Victoria got that. Yep. I'm loving the interaction in regards to our audience today. They are enraptured with our presentation, which is good. So if you weren't aware, 2026 Commonwealth Games. So we won that, or Victoria did. Now, irrespective of whether you're Liberal or Labor, I think it's a great initiative that the Commonwealth Games are going to be based in regional Victoria. It's fantastic. So we've got Geelong, Ballarat, Bendigo, Gippsland, just checking the time. How am I going for time? 10 minutes? Yep. Cool, we're on track. So there's going to be a significant amount of money that's been spent in these areas to upgrade obviously things like sports facilities, transport infrastructure. The Athletes Village, I only found out this a couple of days ago when I was doing some Googling. The Athletes Villages, once they're constructed, and obviously the crowd's filling up, which is great. Thank you guys for sitting front centre, it's fantastic. Oh, you can see the screen a bit better, it wasn't to get close, okay. The Athletes Villages, post the athletes moving out, are actually going to be transitioned into social housing. So once again, as Bob mentioned, there is a rental crisis. All right? So we're obviously talking to you guys about fantastic, you make lots of money if you make sensible decisions and your plans are long term, but there are a number of people that actually can't afford homes. Okay, so this is a fantastic initiative that the state government are doing. So 2026, you've still got plenty of time to pick a block of land to build a house in regional Victoria before this happens. Socio-economic lifestyle. The one I wanted to talk about, which I'm sure you're all aware, is the amazing thing. Obviously, COVID was terrible, but the only thing that happened from a lifestyle point of view. Thousands of people decided to move to regional Victoria based on lifestyle because they realised that they needed a bit more land, they wanted a bit more space. Potentially they wanted to get into a home necessarily afford in Metro Melbourne. So a couple of quick stats. There was a productivity report that was done late 2021. So pre-COVID, 8% of people worked sometime from home. 8%. Post-COVID, it's a tick under 40%. I'm one of those people. So Core Projects are based in South Melbourne. Pre-COVID, I had to drive up the highway 5 days a week. Sometimes that trip was 2 and a bit hours. Okay. Now I can work from head office 2 days a week, 2 or 3 days a week. So I have fantastic flexibility. There's a lot of people saying that potentially that's going to swing back and people will all migrate back to the cities. My suggestion on that is I actually don't think that's going to happen, because if you've moved for lifestyle reasons, why would you move back? There is a reason why you wanted to move. And I think with the competitive landscape in regards to low employment, that if you're an employer and you can't offer the ability to work from home part of the time, you're probably missing a bit of a trick. That there, if you're unaware, is the Mandalay Resort. Beautiful place if you wanted to, for a lifestyle change, go out to Beveridge. It's fantastic, look at that. Scarcity, quickly, I won't touch on this too much. This is just a bit of an exercise. So Armstrong Creek, the growth corridor, there's about 4,200 lots remaining. How do we work that out? Well, the good people from Core Projects have clever people that count all the lots. They know how many lots each developer's got. Now, in a normal market, which we're not in a normal market, it's a quiet market, right? There's a lot of people that are sort of sitting on their hands, waiting. They're not sure whether they want to do something just yet. In a normal market, you'd be looking at about 200 to 150 lots being sold per month. So if we closed our eyes and thought, all right, well, if 200 lots get sold in Armstrong Creek, the growth corridor, means all the land's going to be sold by 2024. Now, if it's 50 lots, there's going to be land till 2029. My bet, if I was a betting man, would suggest you're probably looking at 2024. So once again, if you were to purchase something that there wasn't a ready supply of and there's no more of it, what do you think is going to happen to your price? This is the last one, and there is a bit of a typo on this, I do apologise. This is just to highlight long-term growth. So the circle up the top, 2010, that is in Warrallee. You could buy a 448 square metre block of land for $159,000. 2022, same size lot, similar area, being sold for $450,000. So it's a 166% increase. Now, I worked at Warrallee from 2010. Yep. First few years, there wasn't a lot of growth. A lot of that growth's been in the last 4 or 5 years. Now, you'd probably kick yourself if you bought a block of land and sold after 2 years. So the message in this is if you can hang in there, yep, hold, the longer you will do, the better you will be. 2009, at our Mandalay Resort, you could have bought a beautiful 630 square metre lot backing onto the golf course. You can actually buy the same block, so 170,000. Now the typo is the 448, that should be 630. You can buy a 630 square metre block backing onto the golf course at Mandalay. It's got a nationally recognised golf course, Peter Thompson Golf Course, for $512,000. A little bit of growth. So once again, 10 years, bought a block of land, you wait, goes up. The last thing I'll highlight before I finish, and we're running right on time, which is great, we've just ticked over the 5 minutes. If you can actually see there, which you probably can't, but from Core Logic, you can go in and have a look at sort of median house prices. So this is sort of like a rolling average. Apart from, if we were to sort of go over here just to sort of see, so we're looking at Armstrong Creek, apart from 2016 and then 2019, prices have been going up. And to reiterate once again earlier speakers' points, you've got to stop reading the paper in regards to articles saying that the property market's going to crash. Now, certain areas, and this is part of your research, but given that I purchased my first home in 2010, of 6 of them, and I've got another 2 to go next year, if at any stage I decided that, the market was going to crash 30%, I'm just not going to do anything, well, I'd be a lot worse off. Lastly, just to finish off, I did the obligatory Google, like getting onto Google, having a look at some real estate quotes. And these are actually quite old, but they still hold true. So I suppose the point about this is it's not rocket science. So buy on the fringe and wait. So green fields, so new estates, that's buy on the fringe. Buy land near a growing city, buy real estate when other people want to sell. Hold what you buy, okay? Buy land, they're not making it anymore, it's Mark Twain. And don't wait to buy real estate and wait. So I suppose the question I would pose to you, because I'm assuming you're all wanting to do something, is what's the thing that's stopping you doing the thing? Why are you not jumping in? Because at every stage where I have looked at purchasing a property and I've been a bit sort of unsure and I've taken the plunge anyway, it's worked out. Okay, so the quicker you get in, the quicker you can start to reap the benefits of capital growth. That is pretty much it. I've probably got 2 minutes for any questions. Obviously no stress if you guys don't have any questions. Any questions? Going once, going twice. I always wanted to be an auctioneer. Yep, sold. Thank you very much to Chris and Chi from OpenLot. I think from all the feedback from the guys, it's been a fantastic event. If you did want to have a chat to myself or Lee or Ramesh about Warraley, which is in Armstrong Creek, whatever region areas, or the Mandalay Resort in Beveridge, please wander over. We're the second stall on the left when you come in. Thank you very much. Cheers.